All right, we need to call to order the Livingston Parish Ordinance Committee, Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021, at 5 o'clock, 2023 at 5 o'clock. Can you call the roll, please?
Okay, Mr. Bubba?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Here.
Mr. King?
Here.
Mr. Burns?
All right, we got new business, review, discussion, and recommendations of ordinances. A, discussion of Chapter 42, Articles, obscene materials.
So we know that because of our conversation with Chris Moody and conversation during the council meeting last 2 weeks ago, that we have a problem with the ordinance.
Right.
Overly broad. So we've been looking at what areas need to be addressed. I don't have an answer to all of them.
Okay, well, let's hear what you got.
I think initially, and we're gonna have to define, we're gonna have the attorneys tell us what parts have to be amended. So those parts that he says is unenforceable based on rulings from the Supreme Court with respect to free speech and that stuff, we need to not say they're illegal, but we need to identify them and then restrict where they can take place.
Right. Distances
For
from places.
example, the part that deals with strip clubs. Obviously, we can't say strip clubs are illegal, but
Yeah.
what we could do is say you can only build a strip club in an area that there is no residential rooftops within 1 mile of the facility, which in essence would then put it in an area where you don't have to worry about subdivisions and schools and those type of things. With respect to retail establishments, we could create a similar type deal. I don't think a mile needs to exist in that thing, but we could look at 1,000 feet from schools, churches, playgrounds, libraries.
What do liquor stores and things like that have? What's the distance
Depending
on
on,
those?
they're 500 feet in our current ordinance, they're 500 feet in our current ordinance.
Okay,
I do think we need to address signage. I think signage needs to be block letters without logos, just to identify the name. Because I looked at a logo the other day that's somewhat suggestive, and so probably we don't need to put that on signs in the public. You'll get your chance in a second.
Okay.
And then that the material displayed should not be visible to the public unless they enter the store. And those are just starts that I think some things that we need to be addressed in the ordinance.
right.
But I think that an attorney, because if you look at the 3 questions that Chris sent me that you've got to answer, you know, that you've got to talk, I ask and then answer. I'm not sure that you know, I quite understand the legalese behind all that. So he needs to look and say, based on the ruling of the Supreme Court, that he needs to define what areas we cannot legally enforce.
Right, yeah, because
And then identify those, leave the parts that we can enforce within the ordinance. The parts that we can enforce, identify the acts or the sale or the business going on, whatever it happens to be, and then put some restrictions upon that to protect the public, their sensibility, so to speak.
Sure.
We're not restricting commerce, but in essence, we've talked about the things they sell can be bought online, but those people that address it online are specifically looking for it.
Right.
So in essence, if you're not specifically looking for those items, then if you walk down the sidewalk, you shouldn't have them, thrown in your face. So consequently, that's the reason for making them not visible from the public unless they choose to enter the retail establishment.
Yes, sir.
Those are just some ideas I have right off the top of my head. I think that, we've got to have the attorney kind of go through here. There's some areas that probably just need to be stricken in general.
Yeah.
And he can identify those, that there's some things the government doesn't need to be involved in, and they can strike those, identify them and strike them. But that's how that's
probably the best way
my
to
initial
proceed.
thing of how to start working on this thing. It's gonna take a while, but I think
So we're not gonna be ready for any kind of.
absolutely not, because I personally cannot go through here and define what parts are legal and what parts aren't legal. So you've got to have some attorney come say, I can't defend this part.
Right.
But we could say that if you have that part in your facility
do
or
this.
are engaged in this particular act, that you need to meet these these restrictions, and we can set forth those restrictions. And so, that's kind of how I think we need to move forward, so. I don't know, I mean, I just, Tracy,
I'm forgiving my tardiness, guys.
I know, look, they got a wreck on the interstate, I didn't know where you were, so.
No, I was talking about Florida Boulevard, and I should have got on the interstate. I know.
No, you shouldn't.
Shoot, I pulled off a Kane Market on the 190 and came to a complete stop. I mean, I came the back way, and still, I got here barely in time.
So I'm assuming we're on item 2A.
2A, and all we did was address the fact that parts of the ordinance, we know we can't defend.
Yep.
So, but we need an attorney to identify what those areas are. And then we can then take those areas that we can't defend, but identify them and then restrict what areas or how far they have to be from a house, church.
We can make that anything we'd like, right? Up to what, yeah.
I mean, ultimately, you can pretty much, as long as you could find that spot within the parish that thing could operate, then you're good. Because basically what it amounts to is, when I said something about a mile, somebody said, well, that's overly broad. You can't do that. Absolutely, state law exists right now to get a new video poker license. You can't be within a mile of a residential rooftop. Nobody can live within that mile. So there are plenty of places that exist. Nobody wants to build them there because there are no rooftops to support it. But in essence, you can operate it. People can travel to it if they want to, but you, in essence, remove it from areas that you might not. Then if you had zoning, you could say, okay, you gotta go to this area of the parish. This area of zoning, but we don't have zoning, but we can, by definition of distance, restrict.
I did not cut you off. But you had said if you put in a restriction, because clearly the way the ordinance is written now, it's so unenforceable, it's basically you can do it anywhere, because by the way that the law is now, the whole thing would be thrown out.
Yeah, if they challenge us, it'd be like.
So let's look at the particular item that brought it to our attention. Okay, so by definition, it says certain items cannot be sold, right?
Right.
The parish attorney's already said that's not enforceable, right? So we know that we cannot make it illegal to sell those items. However, we could say that if you're engaged in the selling of those items, you have to be 1,000 feet from church, city block, playground, library. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, school. I mean, we can restrict that, and then in essence, you keep that away from areas that you might not want little children to visibly see it. Plus, this particular thing is between a daiquiri shop and a vape shop. I mean, as I understand it. However, there is a volleyball facility behind it that I think you can participate in under the age of 21 or 18 or whatever. Am I? Okay, so in essence, those kids, the parents can drop those kids off, they go play volleyball, come up front, walk down the sidewalk, and then window shop, so to speak. So that's where I got to the point that maybe we need to make, the products that are sold not visible to the public unless they choose to enter the shop.
Yeah.
And so, and then we talked about strip clubs, you know what I'm saying? We just say they're illegal. Obviously they're not, because they exist, all over the country. Because if you, my understanding based on the 3-question test, you can't stop them, but you could limit where they are. My suggestion was a mile from a residential rooftop. Draw a circle, and you got to be a mile from a residential rooftop to get that thing permanent. And so, those are just observations to start with. And I mean, it's gonna, first we got to identify what's illegal and what's not illegal. And those things that we've said are illegal that are clearly not enforceable, we need to remove those and then address them in a different manner and restrict access to the public from those items through or younger people in the public, restrict them. So that's how I.
The only other thing I would like to add to that is that the signage.
We talked about that, but go ahead and talk about the signage, because I think we're all in agreement with that, so.
The basically, the name of the business is the sign. If y'all restrict to just
We said like the name of the business, block letters, no logos, anything like that, because, and so,
No suggested logos. They can
well,
use
no,
logos.
no, you
That leaves open
can't,
for
that's interpretation. So, I guess the thing is that you define.
This
You wanna put the sign out there, put your name on it. You know what I'm talking about? And that's it. And so, we could decide, we could define what size they are, what block, I mean, we can do that in the ordinance. I mean, and it will withstand the challenge, you know? So, we just have to come as agreement of the 9 of us, what we think is acceptable. Now, I can't tell you, I think we struck a nerve on the signs, and there's a lady in the audience that would like to speak on it, so.
I do.
I mean,
I do. It's a heart with an arrow pointing down to Frenzies. It's not, I mean, if you have that kind of mind, of course you can draw it there.
Can you, yeah.
What is, I'm Megan Williams. Why does the font matter of Frenzies?
I can see from my standpoint, it's sexually suggestive.
The font of Frenzies?
Not the font, the logo.
Right, but he
The
was saying.
logo.
It's a heart with an arrow pointing to Frenzies.
Is it really?
You know what? You want to see
And that's
something?
what
Look
I'm
at this.
saying.
Look
And
at
so
this.
That's why.
It's up, look,
Look
that's
at
up for
this. That's where it
interpretation.
came
We're not gonna
from.
argue, we're not gonna argue that point, but we can, within the ordinance, define how those particular facilities are advertised, and we could choose.
Is this a problem too? Because that could be sexually suggestive as well.
I don't control Amazon signs.
It's all over.
Well, I understand, but there's no, we don't have an ordinance about Amazon signs.
You know, we were all on the same page 2 weeks ago, and I guess that's why I'm a little, you know, thrown off at the way that this meeting is going, because everyone was on board. Everyone, including you. I know that you said
Everyone
no,
was on
but,
board with the fact that the way the ordinance was addressed,
correct.
we couldn't
It's
stop
wrong.
you from opening.
Right.
I mean, everybody was in agreement upon that fact. I voted no because there was no need to reaffirm a permit that had already been issued. I thought it was a redundant action by the deal, because the issuing of the permit was purely within the guidelines of the way parish law is written. And I think I made it clear at that deal that when the parish law, as it's written, when you sold the product, the sheriff and the DA would then interpret whether they wanted to enforce that. But based on the law as it was written, it was an illegal act. I think
So
I
is
made
the goal though to basically rewrite the law to where I would be breaking the law? That's what I'm trying to figure out right now.
No, we're not
We're
trying to
rewriting the law.
open it up.
We're rewriting the law in a manner that is enforceable.
Well, when y'all talk about rooftops and things like that, I'm right next
That's
to a
on strip
bar.
club.
Oh, okay, I don't care about a
Yeah.
strip club.
Yeah, so I mean, we talked about, there are gonna be different levels of restriction within the deal.
Right.
And I think what I said was, as it is right now, you can open a strip club anywhere in the parish, because the law as it's written is unenforceable.
Right.
What we're talking about doing is creating, if and when this thing gets amended, is that one of the possibilities was that a strip club couldn't be built within a 1 mile radius of a rooftop. We didn't address your deal at all. We did talk about your type of business when we talked about 1,000-foot restrictions from church, synagogue, playground,
I think it's
school,
300.
library.
The state law was 300, correct?
State law can be what state law is. We're actually further.
So what is it
along.
right now? What is the parish law right now
You
for
can't
that?
have it at all.
Well, no. I mean,
Well, wait. Parish law is it's illegal for you to open.
right.
Okay. So it's illegal for you to sell certain products.
Uh-huh.
What we're talking about doing is making it not illegal for you to sell those products. However, where those products are sold will have a distance from certain other types of establishments.
So I may have to move my business, is what you're
I don't
saying.
know, are you within 1,000 feet of a church, playground, school, library?
I'm close to the library, but I think I'm more than 1,000 feet.
Probably.
Because Laguna's next to me. They would have the same restrictions as me, right?
Laguna would have if they sell alcohol.
They do.
It'd be a 500-foot, are they inside the city or outside?
Outside.
Yeah.
So it'd be a 500-foot restriction on Laguna.
And so we would probably fall under that as well.
Well, I mean, I don't know how far, I didn't measure Laguna, I couldn't tell you, but if Laguna is at least 500 feet from whatever the things identified within the parish ordinance with respect to alcohol. So, and so based on how they're measured, they fall outside there.
Yeah,
Can you,
we're not-
can, I need to understand, okay, so everything at the very beginning is
Mhm.
all definitions.
Right?
Right.
That's just what this means, that's what this means. But once you start getting into all of the codes, I mean, everything is unlawful for a person knowingly to distributing obscene items to minors,
Okay, so-
displaying obscene items to minors.
So we.
Everything has to do with minors. Nothing is publicly displayed.
Well, I think there's a part that talks about, there are some parts that don't address minors, that it's illegal to sell.
The artificial parts, is that what you mean?
No, that's just a definition.
Any,
That's just a
unlawful for
definition.
person knowingly permit or authorize the public display of any obscene items, explicit sexual material, or material depicting.
So what we know is that the way the ordinance is written
It
now.
can't be enforced.
It can't be enforced. So what we're trying to do is address the ordinance and make it enforceable. I mean, that's our intent.
Right.
It is not our intent to put you out of business, because what we're not trying to do is, create a situation where you can't operate. What we're doing is restricting the areas that these things can operate within. And we're creating buffer zones between, I think, 4 things: playgrounds, schools, churches, and libraries. That's what we're looking at doing.
And we should fall under whatever alcohol it is, there's,
Well, I mean, alcohol's got a 500 foot, and if the council chooses to do 500 foot, then that's what the ordinance will be. If the council chooses to do 1,000 foot, it'll be 1,000 foot. If they choose to do it a mile, it'll be a mile. I mean, my suggestion was, on a retail establishment like yours, there would be 1,000 feet from those 4 facilities that I talked about. And there had been some discussion with respect to the sign. Meaning that we don't care that you identify that you're there, we just want you to make a blank sign that just basically has your name on it.
which
And
is,
we could.
That's
and-
ridiculous.
And so the
I'm
sign
fine
could
with
be
it.
defined, we could go as so far as to say the letters have to be this tall and this shape. I'm not sure we're gonna do that, but what we do want is a name, and that's it.
so why would I get 1,000 feet, but alcohol would not? You can't see inside the shop. The shop actually has somebody coming out at 10 o'clock tomorrow to white frost the doors.
Well, and-
So you can't see in and we can't see out. Nothing will be able to be seen. And if I have block letters, then all that would do is basically force me to go somewhere else, is what that would do if you try to make it 1,000 feet. That's all that it would do.
Actually, I think
actually
if we
go
made it
measure
1,000 feet and you were already there, that you would be grandfathered in.
Yes.
So whatever we're doing is not
You got
actually
permits.
technically gonna
Yeah.
affect.
I do, but I don't like, I like every,
I know.
I like black and white. I don't like
Well, I mean,
gray.
that's what we're doing.
We're trying to get
fixing
the
it.
black.
We're fixing
Yeah.
it.
We didn't know anything about it 3 weeks ago.
Right.
So
Neither did we.
And, have I gotten no negative? Not one.
No, we had one today.
I've seen
We had
two.
one today that called you.
I've seen 2 on
No.
Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
and they got beat to death.
They did.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's trying to restrict access, but I think I don't think anybody's trying to restrict businesses from opening.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're technically trying to restrict access. I think what we are trying to do is put them in an area away from certain things.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly legal.
Because of perception, no other, some people have perceived
I mean,
what y'all are
there
selling
are-
as evil, and you know that.
It's opinion.
Right, and so.
There's only a couple though. We
if
have to
it
state
is
that. There's only a couple.
But for us to ignore those people would be like if we ignored you. know?
Right.
So if we can work something out that works for everyone, nobody gets, highly upset about it, that's the way to go, so that people that are trying to make a living in a business can open their business without anybody going, well, y'all gotta shut them down. Nope, law says this. And that's with any business. You don't wanna restrict
So
business.
in essence, whatever we come up with will technically not affect you. Now, if you choose to open another branch,
We do, and you know about it.
I talked to the landlord, I don't know if that's gonna happen or not, but anyway.
You know about it.
Oh, you can't put that by my house.
Anyway, I mean, so if you choose to open it, you would, the second would fall under the restrictions.
Right.
So,
Where you're looking over there is good.
I mean, even that facility would not be impacted by the restrictions
Right.
if they chose to rent it to you. It wouldn't be, that other one, that other location you told me, would not be impacted.
But you would have to put the sign however we want the sign, and make it where you can't see in the.
So y'all don't like my heart?
No, I love it. Beautiful sign. I had no issue with the sign.
I don't
You
either.
know, that's just me.
Mr.
But there's
Girlinghouse,
nine-
you don't like my
There's 9
sign?
of us. There's 9 of us, and everybody's
Just,
got a
just
different
if,
opinion.
what's
Well,
wrong?
I don't wanna come across like a prude.
Well, too late, too late.
I know your sign might be fine. You
Yeah,
understand what I'm saying?
it's a heart with an arrow pointing
The
to
next sign
Frenzies.
might be,
Is it really?
I swear it is.
Well,
It was
well,
all, I swear, I paid for it. It's out there. Like, I paid for that logo.
I understand. I'm just telling you, the only thing I'm saying is that whether somebody approves or disapproves of your logo, there will be logos out there that are not so friendly. You know what I'm saying? So in essence, to not have to address every logo individually and argue whether it is obscene or not obscene or whatever, just eliminate the logos.
Yeah, we don't want to be the obscene police, because that's not our job.
The thing is, everybody has logos, you know. Somebody who doesn't drink may get offended by Laguna Beach's logo, a big daiquiri with a straw. You know, you can't appeal to everyone. And
Absolutely.
And the thing
Right.
is, I don't want people to have to suffer who put money into this, myself, Kayla, simply because somebody says, oh, well, my mind can make that into being something else, when that's not what was intended at
Your
all.
mind can make everything into something else.
That's everything.
That's everything.
outside of this.
Amazon's logo, I mean, is
So we would
everywhere.
be
It's the
punished
same
when
thing.
tons of companies out
It's your
there.
belief, Mr. Talbot, that this business as it is won't be
This
affected.
facility is not, I mean, it's
All right.
it's permanent. So there, y'all are
So
not
the
gonna
argument's done with that.
y'all not gonna be impacted, whatever we do with this stuff.
At that
At that
Just
facility.
a future
So I'm just saying,
location.
I mean, I'm
So-
gonna have it, I really would like to say, because if you don't restrict it at all, then somebody's gonna take it to the nth degree.
And I mean, look, we,
And that may not pass. It may be that five people say, no, we don't want to have any
I
signs.
just,
Well, Scooter doesn't have a dirty mind because he agrees with it.
Oh, no, I got,
No, Scooter's bad.
when I saw,
You're wrong.
when I saw,
You're wrong. You were wrong. She's wrong, I know.
when I saw the sign, I went, well, that's,
It's a heart. It's a pretty heart with an arrow pointing to Frenzies.
Look, I'll tell you what happened.
Community
And this is,
standards.
somebody pointed out to me.
honest to
I'm like,
God truth,
I didn't even see the Facebook post. I had to go look for it. Somebody
Yeah.
told me about it, so I just.
I
Yeah.
didn't see it until after the last meeting.
Right?
And,
I saw it right away.
I was driving through it with a friend of mine in the car, and she saw it.
Yeah.
And she was like, what? And I said.
So
"What
she's
are you
got a
talking
dirty
about?"
mind.
I was like, "I don't know." So, I mean, not necessarily with you, because this location, you're good. I mean, we can't do anything, we can do anything about it. But, you know, going forward, and you can put it on your, I guess you'd be able to put it inside your store or.
Inside your store, advertising on social media. We're talking about,
This
we're talking about the
farms,
things we regulate.
you know.
On the sign visible to the public and outside your business, nobody can see it.
Well, the one going above the door just says Frenzies. It's not
Yeah, it's
block,
not a-
but it's tall, skinny
And,
Frenzies.
you know,
That's
so
it.
Look, I mean, I don't know what we're gonna do with respect to letters. I think the intent is no logos. Is ultimately, and I added, if you wanted to define what the sign looked like, you could, but the intent is no logos displayed in the public. And it might have it might not have anything to do with your logo, but there have been people pointed some things out about your logo, and I had to go look to see what they were talking about. There might be other logos that are way more suggestive, and we don't want to have to deal with that on an individual basis. We would like to write a law just to take care of it all at one time.
So a lot of people would be affected.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no logo, just words. Got it.
Anything else?
I mean, look, we're at least another, we've got to get this to the parish attorney. They've got to do some work on what is and what isn't, and come back to us. So
We gotta make it right
we're a
before, we
few
ain't doing
weeks-
this 2 or 3 times.
we're a few weeks away from, I think,
Yeah.
having an introduction or anything close to an introduction, so.
All right, you the chairman.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, no.
Item B, Livingston Parish Consolidated Gravity Drainage District. Is this,
It's Shane.
Shane's not here?
Shane said he should be here right now, but
All right.
look, I'm gonna help him. I'm gonna help him on this. This is a three-part deal. There's an initial resolution to remove gravity district drainage 6 and 7's board. Then there is an ordinance of introduction to create gravity drainage 6. No, gravity drainage 8. It says 6, but it's supposed to be 8.
Told you it said 6.
To create gravity drainage 8, and the boundaries of it will be the old boundaries of 6 and 7 combined. Because there was some, as I understand it, when you go to consolidating
Districts, you have to do all
districts,
different things.
it's got, well, no, the consolidation is different than the creation. So it has something to do with the way the old boards were set up and possible expansion in the future. So in essence, it was easier to create a new district. Okay, let's say, for example, if you consolidate, Ms. White, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. If we consolidate 6 and 7 and create a consolidated district, then the ability to merge in the future, if somebody saw fit, 1, 2, 5, and the consolidated district would create a problem. However, if we created a new district,
Just gave it the next number.
and gave it a different number,
Yeah.
created a different boundary, then at some point in time in the future, if they all wanted to be merged, they would all be on equal footing, and it would be much easier. Am I correct in my assessment?
Yeah, there's just different state laws that state different things for consolidated, so, and we were fighting doing things by state law and doing the proper protocol that our home rule charter calls for, so for us, it's
Just
just.
to make it easier, you just give the next number up on the list
And you
and
just
follow
Get
it.
rid of the
And
two.
dissolve the other two by resolution,
Understood.
and then introduce a
Okay.
new one. So that's all, I
We
mean, that's
don't
what
really
it's.
have anything to do on that.
The ordinance is written, it's all ready to go, it's just a matter of, what anybody feels like in particular, and Mr. Mack's not here to.
Are they planning to create a new board at the?
At that point in time, I think the board will be the same type deal. Does it say how many members on the new
Yeah,
deal?
it's 5 members, and they are going to be appointed the same way the other ones are.
So there'll be a stagger?
Yeah.
There'll be a stagger. Is it a 5-year term? And or is
It's,
it-
5 members, 2 for 2 years, and 3 for 4 years.
And we- everybody don't
And
take
then
that at
everyone
once.
else
Yeah.
has 4 years.
So it just creates a stagger on 2 people, and so there's the possibility of never changing 5 members at one time. You could change up to 3 in one given 4-year period, or 2 in another 4-year period.
Yeah, that's better.
So it creates a stagger on the board. So in essence, it pretty much follows the other guidelines. It'll be the same with trying to generate tax revenue and all that kind of stuff. It's just the procedure for eliminating, for dissolving the first 2 and then forming the third.
Fair enough. All right.
So I think that's already on the agenda, so we don't need a recommendation coming out of here, it's already up. Like if we had to come up with an ordinance on the other, we'd have to make a recommendation to
Sure.
forward. The other thing's on the agenda, so we don't have to really do anything.
All right, and so with item A, we're just gonna continue discussion.
At a later
Yeah,
date.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
look, I think it's gotta go to Chris.
Yeah, it's got to pass.
It's gotta go
the
to
legal
Chris,
test,
and
yeah.
he's gotta go tell us what areas, he gotta redline the areas that aren't enforceable. And then we've gotta identify, are those areas that aren't enforceable that had previous restrictions on them, do we wanna put distance restrictions on where they can go or not go?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the debate. Then there'll be other areas that are addressed in here that might not even want, we might not want to even address, because some of them are private within a home, and so we'll have to let him figure that out.
Tell us what to pull
And
and
if
what
you
to leave.
look, if you look at the Tangy ordinance that it sent us, it gives a similar type outline. It identifies a particular situation, and then, then you can take that situation and go restrict where it goes.
Mr. Harris, anything?
No, I'm good.
Anything from the audience? All right. Item 3, old business, review, discussion, and recommendations of ordinances.
I don't think we have anything right
I
now.
don't know if I spoke to, Dallas with, AFA, Allen Fairburn Associates, and he's been, just, I don't know if you discussed at some point in the past, I was bringing it up here, that, he's gonna, present to the council the next meeting where we're at, where we're going as far as the zoning
Okay.
things goes.
he'll have some fields.
Well, he's gonna have I told him that we would, the first meeting, he present directly to the council, and then any subsequent things goes before the ordinance committee.
Okay.
And if we feel like they need to bring it, to someone else's attention, then we'll move up and move it to the council.
Yeah, making headway.
Does
Good
finance
thing.
be behind us now?
Yeah, it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
All right,
finance come up.
that's cool, then we'll, so, other business?
No,
All right, motion to adjourn.
motion.
Second, Mr. King, second by Mr. Calvert, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.